Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 Million by 1 Million Strategy Roundtable for Entrepreneurs. 1Mby1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for startups. And our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. We run this out of Silicon Valley, but with a global footprint. And in support of that mission, we've had these free mentoring roundtables going on for more than a decade. This is the 443rd session, and over 100,000 people have attended and participated in these sessions. The event is being recorded. You will find all recordings, all prior recordings, and this one will also go there on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. It's a great body of learning materials. If you have time and if you're looking to learn, go there and dig around. If you're live tweeting the show today, please use hashtag 1M1M. And on Twitter, we are at 1M1M and at Romana. You can follow either or both, and there's a ton of interesting content, educational content, inspirational content that keeps coming through these channels. And our content works in the domain of technology and technology-enabled entrepreneurship is very comprehensive. So please take advantage of that content, and by and large, a very large portion of that is free. Okay, so these are the teleconference call-in instructions. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so eventually I'm going to open this line up for you to participate. In the meantime, you can participate in our public chat, sent to all participants. Do not send me private chats. I cannot do tech support and anchor this show. You can send private chats to Maureen Kelly if you have questions about technicalities, but by all means, line up your questions for discussions. Today's session, we're going to begin with a conversation with Eghosa Omoigui, Managing Partner of EchoVC. Eghosa, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Very glad to be here.
Well, let's get to know each other, and let's get you introduced to our audience. Tell us about EchoVC. Tell us about yourself. What have you been up to, and what is EchoVC?
Sure, thanks. My name is Eghosa, and I'm managing partner and founder of EchoVC. We are a seed and early stage venture capital firm focused on making investments in technology and technology-enabled startups that have a primary market focus in Africa. And so these firms may be everywhere around the world. We've done investments in different geographies, but the primary theme of their business models and their targeted products and services would be Africa. So what we essentially posit is that we finance Africa-focused entrepreneurial inspiration.
And how big is the fund?
So we are in the process of raising our second fund now. Our first fund, which was 5 years ago, had $16.5 million in initial commitments, and that was focused on seed and early stage. And then halfway through that, through the last 5 years, we entered into a strategic partnership with TPG Growth, and later on TPG Rise Fund. And so we manage their Africa Small Check platform for them, which essentially gives us the ability to write much bigger checks.
Okay, very interesting. How did you get into this business of investing in Africa? What path did you follow in your career?
Well, I've had a somewhat non-traditional career. So if anyone tells you that you have to wear chinos and a denim shirt and get a Stanford MBA and end up being a VC, I'm precisely the counterpoint to that. I was raised in Nigeria, graduated as a lawyer, started out my career as an oil and gas lawyer as well as a corporate lawyer, then moved to the U.S. to go to school, University of Pennsylvania, did a degree in corporate law and finance, and did a whole bunch of different things, worked in a startup, worked as a consultant, worked in a law firm, and I ended up at Intel Capital, which then was the largest corporate venture capital firm in the world. I was fortunate enough to be there for about 10 years, and I did a variety of roles, which I think have contributed to everything I am today. But I did everything from venture capital legal, portfolio management legal, IP purchasing, patent purchasing, bankruptcy and restructuring, as well as investing in consumer internet mobile. I also led the investing activity in semantic technologies, which covered the umbrella of artificial intelligence, machine learning, computer vision, and augmented reality.
Great.
And then I left Intel in 2010, and then I started EchoVC the year after that.
Terrific. So, Eghosa, I'm personally deeply interested in Africa and what's happening in Africa and so forth. So, I would like to ask you to first start us out with some broad trends on what are entrepreneurs doing in Africa, what kinds of businesses are they building, and which of those are actually attracting investments? And then we'll come to your specific investments in a moment.
Sure. So I think when I started this process, so I'll give you the very quick, broad strokes of how this activity started. So Intel Capital, when I left, was operating in probably about 34, 35 countries, not Intel Capital, and had several hundred people supporting the activity. So what I learned from being part of that group was that innovation happened everywhere, and it was broadly distributed, but it could be very localized in terms of its impact, as well as global. And so I left Intel Capital with a hypothesis that the next generation of underserved sort of investing activity would occur in underserved emerging markets. And so I decided that it made sense to look at those emerging markets, and I ended up picking Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, in part because they seem to me to be very highly correlated. And part of the recognition was that you had very similar sort of signals in these markets that suggested that they would sort of evolve essentially in the same way, but more importantly, would represent sort of large opportunities for venture-style returns. And so I went out to pick those two markets. I had no luck because everybody thought I was insane. Those two markets were completely uninteresting, in 2011. But I then decided that, I was not going to quit. And so I picked one of those markets, which was Sub-Saharan Africa, and I went into that. Now, why was Sub-Saharan Africa interesting as was Southeast Asia? Was that those two markets represented in many sectors, ranging from consumer to business to education to healthcare to government to finance and fintech to agriculture, represented very significant opportunities for digital reinvention. And so with that as a backdrop, what we spent time looking for was key drivers to support that thesis that there was going to be a real opportunity for digital reinvention. And the market, so certainly Africa sort of represents a few, sort of suggests and shows a few key drivers. One is that Africa tends to be much younger demographics-wise. Nigeria, for instance, 200 million people, 70% of whom are under 30. Uganda, for instance, is there's arguably 85% are in their teens or less. So they were much younger demographically skewed. You found very significant, very rapid mobile broadband adoption, certainly the fastest growing in the world. You saw more increased investments in internet and internet-enabled infrastructure. And I think the real big mover was the affordability of connected devices. So, grateful for all the players in the ecosystem that have consistently driven innovation at increasingly lower prices. And so what that enabled was that you found these new markets that could leapfrog, through the distribution of both connectivity as well as the devices. And so Africa sort of represents the coalition of those key drivers. And if you now step back and said, what were the mega trends that were more applicable to African markets? One was that mobile platforms were reshaping distribution and consumption paradigms very dramatically. And I'll talk a little bit more specifically of things like services and M-Pesa. You saw a real opportunity to refactor financial services versus disrupt them, because there's a lot more fragility on the continent, so you have to do more refactoring and less disruption. And then I think the most important thing was that Africa represented, in our view as a manager, significantly large iceberg microeconomies. And what I would call them iceberg microeconomies was that there's always sort of, a lot of the big investors always think about macro, but a lot of these markets have these lurking microeconomies, and they're icebergs because nearly all of these microeconomies lie beneath the surface. And so when you apply some of the key drivers, demographics, technology, broadband, internet infrastructure, and you apply that to these big mega trends, there were interesting things you could do with technology, whether it was, rise of mobile, digital marketplaces, doing education technology at real scale, being able to deliver high octane, ag tech related, disruption. So fundamentally, to tying that all together, Africa represented for us the next big thing, and that continues to be the case.
Let's talk about the few of the companies. Maureen, somebody is streaming echo.
I'm sorry?
Okay, I'm going to try again.
Okay, go ahead.
Maureen, can you mute the line that is generating echo? I think it's Luis's line that is generating echo. It's really annoying.
That's fine. But I can hear you now. I mean, no pun intended. There's an echo on the line. That's hilarious. But
okay, so what I was going to take examples of companies that you have invested in from your first fund, maybe, so we get a feel for what kind of things you've been investing in the past, and also to get a feel for what is happening in Africa and what kinds of businesses are being built. So we can do 2, 3, 4 examples and take us into what did they have when they came to you. How did they come to you, and what is it about these companies that struck you as possibilities of really building interesting, exciting ventures in the long run?
Sure. So we've invested in over 20 companies, from seed, early stage, all the way to early growth. And I'll pick a couple of them and sort of use them as examples of why they were interesting and why we did them. So first of all, as a backup, what we've thought about and talked about at length is how to create investment thesis to that sort of support the investing activity. And so we have 4 investment theses that we've talked about internally, but this will be the first time I think we're sharing them outside. One of them is that there's a recognition that in many sub-markets within Africa, almost all the economic activity was offline and continues to be offline. And so there was a very large opportunity in our view, through which you could build some very defensible moats, where you could organize the offline and you then bring the offline online. And so one example of that that we invested in at the seed stage was a company called Printivo. And so Printivo is a lot like what people will recognize like a Vistaprint or Printy and the like. And so what they've done is organize the print sector But they did some very interesting and unique things in the business model and in the actual sort of user experience that we found particularly compelling. One of them was that they recognized that print was not just a very simple online service, which is you come online, you order your print, and it gets delivered. But that print represented more of a community of interest and of activity and of participants. So graphic designers, offline printers, the consumers. And so what Printivo did was to build a marketplace that looked more like a community and less like a marketplace. And they've done remarkably well since we invested in them. And for almost no money invested, less, yes, a bit less than $1 billion, they're profitable. And it's a classic example of a great entrepreneurial team, delivering real product market fit. We also have another thesis that we call lubricants, and we actually use that to define products and services, for these markets, the Africa-focused markets, again, with the recognition that there's a very significant amount of friction in day-to-day life. And for folks who sort of operate in the U.S. or in Europe, there are many things that we've taken for granted that don't exist in all these sub-African markets. And so friction sort of really creates, inhibits a lot of the efficiencies that we come to take for granted in other markets. And so what we had thought about was how to think about these types of markets, lubricants. And so one of the things that we like has been, removing friction. And so we invested, and this is a sort of somewhat, late stage company. Actually, you know what? I'll use the early stage company because it's interesting. So we invested in a company called Easy Shop, Easy Cook. We're actually very proud of the very random thing, which is that we probably have one of the deepest portfolios of women-founded tech startups in Africa. So we're very excited about that. But this is one of them. And the entrepreneur essentially, has created a supply chain optimization approach to farm to last mile. So organizing sort of fresh food, fresh produce, right? And then delivering that, processing that, and then delivering that to the end consumers, whether they're businesses or consumers. And the friction that in eliminating a lot of the friction in that process, one of the key advantages has been the fact that the economics to the producers is much better now. And then the value and the convenience to the consumers and the businesses on the other end is dramatically better as well. So that has worked. We just announced an investment in a company called World Cover. We did that last week. We announced it last week. And that's InsurTech. It's our first InsurTech related investment. And World Cover has built a very simple product and platform, but the first product is essentially to address climate risk as applies to smallholder farmers. And this is going to be a global, right? Because it's good in Africa, it's good in India, it's good in Latin America. But they're operating in Africa right now, and fundamentally, there was a recognition that farmers were making decisions around what to plant, where to plant, how to plant, based on sort of risk, but no one ever framed it in that way. And so one of the key drivers of decisions around about planting is about weather risk. And so World Cover built a product that essentially neutralizes the weather risk. And it's a very simple product, and we like that a lot. It is growing quite quickly, and the farmers are becoming, very comfortable with sort of thinking about risk and premium related coverage. And then the final thing is we've thought about these markets, I talked a little bit earlier on about the demographic lift in these markets and how young the market's skewed. So education is a very significant issue. These markets are growing very quickly. Nigeria, I believe, is adding 26,000 babies every day. And so, education and how you sort of create a pathway to household lift is a key part of this. And so we invested in a company called Kukua, which is out of the UK and Nairobi. And what they built is a platform for early age education meets STEM. And so, it highlights, essentially there's a heroine called, Sema. She has all these superpowers and she loves STEM. And, and so what that builds is the ability to learn, in a manner that works is, and essentially for African children and, African descent children, you start to sort of get introduced to these concepts very early, and it can be delivered in sort of bite-sized modules by mobile phone, by TV, but very different channels. So these are sort of how we've thought about the investments. We're very fortunate to have made, been able to partner with the companies that we've invested in, and continue to be very active in thinking broadly around inclusion, in thinking broadly around healthcare. We invested in a company called Life Bank that's optimizing the supply chain for access to blood and blood products. Again, another woman-led company. We invested in Grow Intelligence, which might be the largest agricultural data analytics platform in the world. Again, led by a woman. All right, so we've got an amazing portfolio. But what's interesting as well is that we're beginning to see more companies coming out of Africa that have a shot at being global companies.
Great. Eghosa, I have a few questions based on what you said. The first of which is, what are the backgrounds of these entrepreneurs? Have they grown up in Africa? Have they been educated in Africa? Did they leave and come back? What trends are you seeing in the entrepreneurs who are coming up with these concepts and businesses?
That's a good question. So what we find consistently, let me rephrase that. When we started this process, when everybody was like, Africa, there's nothing there, and you're insane, and we don't know why you're going there. It was just bone dry, right? Very few people sort of were doing anything, with tech and tech-enabled products. Then, a year or two after we got there, then, we started seeing more activity from the incubators in the U.S. And so what we found consistently with, I think, a lot of the foreign investors who tried to sort of, who were investing in Africa, is that they tended to skew initially to entrepreneurs that looked like them or had backgrounds like them, right? And so if you were coming in, you had sort of the degrees from U.S. schools or UK schools or the like, that was sort of how you got in. But slowly but steadily, I still remember when Steve and Jean Case came to Lagos, and we hosted them, and Jean turned around and asked me, like, it was something she noticed. She said, she's meeting a lot of these entrepreneurs who went to HBS or MIT, who's investing in the local founders. And I was like, we are. And, and the truth was that we did and we continue to recognize that a lot of these local founders had maybe a better high resolution understanding of the local dynamics to operate in friction. And that was always sort of interesting to us. But we've also found that, we have founders who are not necessarily African, but care deeply about the continent, have been on the continent, they've lived there, they've worked there, and want to make changes there. So our portfolio is quite broadly diverse. It's mostly African founders, but we also have European and American founders as well. Okay.
And what about countries? You talk about Africa as a whole. What are the granular trends in the different countries within Africa?
So I think from our perspective, a lot of the initial activity sort of in the startup ecosystem was probably initially concentrated in sort of South Africa and East Africa, most importantly Kenya. Those two markets seem to have I think a lot of velocity around being able to attract expats, and of course that also had offered a lot more liquidity in terms of being able to access angel funding and the like. But over the last 5 years, I would probably say that, Nigeria has become sort of the undisputed center of sort of the more startup activity. Nigeria also represents the largest market in Africa from a people perspective. I believe 1 in 6 Black people in the world is Nigerian. And so it continues to represent the market. But we like, there are a bunch of countries in Africa we like for a variety of reasons. Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. In sports, South Africa. South Africa is not underserved for many reasons. So, we're sort of more opportunistic there. But, even Francophone Africa continues to be very interesting to us. We haven't done a lot of stuff there because of the language disconnect, but we're going to fix that this year. And then we like North Africa as well. North Africa, has always been interesting to us, but we're now beginning to see some real interesting companies. And, as with the exit of Kareem, people are now sort of pausing and saying, wait, that you could build a big company that way. And I think that's similar to sort of Jumia now going public. People are like, wait, you can be African, however you want to define that, and you could build $1 billion business on the continent. That's interesting.
And my last trend question is B2B versus B2C. It sounds like it's largely a B2C entrepreneur pool. Is that a correct observation, or am I missing something?
Actually, it's the other way around.
Okay.
It's the other way around. And I think that probably has some sort of correlation with the difficulties associated with access to capital. So what you find more entrepreneurs doing is they enter businesses where your path to revenue is much shorter, and your path to repeatable is short, right? So no one is going to give you 3 years of financing to go build out a customer base and not monetize them. That's not going to happen, all right? So that's the truth. So, I mean, it then ends up being that, there are very few sort of consumer-focused plays. We've done a few, but many investors sort of shirk from that. Many investors are more interested in B2B or, infrastructure, software infrastructure plays.
Well, B2B is a lot more cost-effective to build than these large-scale consumer plays. Although there's one factor that is still true in Africa is that the mobile advertising or Google AdWords, all this is still cheap, which in other markets, other more developed markets, has become very expensive. So there is a way of being able to do online customer acquisition that is still affordable in Africa, which would not be true in America anymore, for example.
Correct, except that the market is mostly offline. And so it was in recognition of that. And we realized two things. One was the market was still very largely offline, and more importantly, the being able to create an advertising platform that would allow small and medium-sized businesses to advertise in their local environments was actually quite difficult. I mean, the opportunities were either in newspapers, which are very expensive, or very large billboards, which are very expensive. So we invested in a company that is doing extremely well, that essentially designed, in conjunction with their supplier, screens that were wirelessly enabled, and they got integrated into gas station pumps, and then now little tablets in retail stores, in cars, and they drive content and commerce and advertising, to these screens. And so what that does now is it enables, hyperlocal advertising. Essentially, it's AdSense for the real world. So that's one of the very large opportunities that we felt and continue to feel it's a gigantic opportunity.
And what is the that makes a lot of sense, actually. That's I was thinking more about your conversation about female founders. What is driving that trend?
So, we don't know. We're 45% women in my firm. Oh, maybe that helps. you know, I grew up in a household with strong, smart, driven women, and so that's sort of normal to me. And
but it's normal to you
and
in terms of choosing to invest in them, but it looks like there's enough deal flow, enough female entrepreneur-led deal flow, which is really what I'm exploring more than the fact that you're investing in them.
It feels to us that there is a deal flow. We have a lot of deal flow, right? We're 13 people strong. I could be 20. I have enough deal flow to have a 20-person firm, so the deal flow is very significant. But I think what it is more importantly though is that let me back up. So there's one interesting trend that we detected in our portfolio of women-led firms, and that is that every single one we've done is a solo founder.
Solo founder.
Correct.
Interesting.
So it's not that we're looking for women solo founders, right? It's ending up like everybody in the portfolio is exactly that. And we've talked about it. Any specific reasons. Yeah. But it ends up that women founders in these markets. I mean, that's not to denigrate how difficult it is for women founders in other markets to get funding and to get going. But in a lot of these, a lot of these sub-Saharan African markets, what you're finding is that, they run into chauvinism, they run into, patriarchy, and they run into sort of cultural dissonance, right? So there's all these expectations about what they should be doing, and, running a business should not be that. So I think by the time you find a woman founder who's gotten started and just doesn't have any quit in her, your chances of making some significant returns on that woman founder just get much higher. And so, and what we're finding is that they start these businesses, they start them based around problems they deeply care about, problems that they focus on. They have some very important insights into those problems and, are able to build solutions to solve those problems. So we've continued to be really amazed by the quality of the founders that we've seen and we've invested in, and continue to be amazed. And one sort of interesting piece of feedback about that is that I got something that one of the founders told me that one of the things that sort of made a difference to her was coming into our office, sitting at a conference table, and seeing all these women's faces looking back at her.
Good.
And that just made it different. Right. Very good. But we have some superstars. We're very happy with them, and we will continue to invest in them.
And what is the Facebook penetration status or social media penetration status in Africa? Is that a customer acquisition channel that is viable?
So I think Facebook has grown quite nicely. I think in Nigeria it's like 26 million now. I mean, a few years ago there were like 5, 6, 7 million. So it has grown quite nicely. Of course, the question, is what is Facebook, right? Because Facebook is Facebook, Facebook is WhatsApp, and Facebook is Instagram. Right? Yeah. So if you look at Facebook via WhatsApp, that's very significant. Of course, they haven't sort of, really sort of monetized that. They're slowly beginning to do that, starting with the work they're doing in India for WhatsApp for Business. But when you look at sort of the activity, Instagram, continues to be a very significant driver of activity and attention in the African markets. And, it's probably the same thing in a lot of emerging markets. It represents a platform to showcase aspiration, whether or not it's genuine or not. And but it certainly garners a lot of attention. So Facebook as an advertising channel works. Absolutely.
Yeah. So where are you normally? Your profile says you're in Los Gatos, but where are you normally? I'm everywhere and nowhere. That sounds like a Game of Thrones reference. I'm not sure. So no, what there's a fair amount of travel in my world. Being in the U.S., the East Coast, I was in New York, and before I'm in London today. I was in New York a few days ago. Before that, I was at the Milken Global Conference in LA.
and back in Lagos, and this is then we're doing some stuff. We're closing a couple of deals, in Nairobi right now. So I could be anywhere and everywhere. So I'm a global VP.
Give me a call or send me an email when you're back in Silicon Valley, and let's have coffee.
I would love to do that.
All right. Well, thank you very much. This is very interesting. As I said, I'm personally fascinated by Africa and this whole explosion of youth population in Africa, and what is going to happen. How is Africa going to manage the education challenge of this population, and so on and so forth. So I would love to continue the conversation, and thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you for having me, and thanks to Maureen for setting this up. I deeply appreciate it.
Bye-bye. Folks, we're going to switch to the second part of today's conversation, where we're going to have the entrepreneur pitches. This is a working session now, so we're going to look at your businesses and brainstorm about how to accelerate them, how to remove your roadblocks, how to steer them further. So this is a safe place. You don't have to worry about being defensive or nervous or anything. We have no other agenda but to help you figure out what your strategy ought to be. You can disagree with what feedback you'll get today. That's fine. It's your venture. You're going to do it however you want to do it. My job is to give you honest, direct feedback, constructive feedback, and you do what you want with it. Remember one thing, don't be single-minded on raising money. Not all businesses can raise money, not all businesses should raise money, and raising money doesn't guarantee success. So with that, we're going to start with Rui Romao from Portugal. Rui, please
Hello.
Unmute your line and tell us what you're working on.
Hello, do you read me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, very nice. Hello from Portugal. My name is Rui Romao, and I will now present our brand. The Westland Concept is a registered trademark of casual and sportswear. Please go to slide 2, please. We produce according to standards, which confer to our products high quality and differentiation. Next slide, please. We started brand validation last summer with the sale of 50 items in a surf shop in our town. The articles were not the subject of any type of promotion or advertising, and were put up for sale in the same displays of the best-selling brands and at similar prices. The experience went very well, but we know it was only the beginning. Next slide, please. The casual and sportswear market is huge, allowing brands to explore niches and still have a big potential. However, in general, fashion is an industry that is not sustainable at all, then financially, socially, and environmentally. Our brand explores consumer behavioral aspects, such as the pursuit of the shopping experience, high-quality product, unique design, social and environmental awareness. Next slide, please. Our
Rui, which slide are we on? Are we talking about the consumer's problem now? Which you need to give me a little bit of indication on the slide you're on.
You are in the right slide, Mara.
Okay, perfect.
Our customers' problems are poor mesh quality, low quality of the manufacturing process, massive and commonplace design, feeling of discomfort when buying items made through the exploitation of cotton producers, labor, as well as environmental crimes. And
yeah. Bangladesh's huge textile industry is very largely based on exploitation of labor, yeah.
Yes, that's it. Next slide, slide 6, please. The solution to these problems are our concept of exclusivity, which is limited and numbered thematic collection, as well as single edition articles. Number 2, our concept of quality. We use the best organic cotton knits and the most experienced and qualified labor. Number 3, our design concept, unique and original design ensured by young talents, designers, and artists. Slide 7, please. Next. Number 4, our concept of innovation, the relationship between the brand and consumer, our concept of collection, brand development. Number 5, our concept of sustainability and profitability, which is social and environmental awareness, online sales, and gross margin of at least 80%. And now, please, slides 9 and, slides 8 and 9. We are at the top of the quality axis, offering unbeatable value for money. Slide 10, it's the next, please. Our competitive advantages are several. However, we highlight easy access to the best manufacturers of the Portuguese textile cluster, the amount of creativity available in the young talents that attend the University of Art and Design of our city, and our cost structure that is very low compared to the benchmark. And the last slide, please. Finally, the team. We are 4 motivated founders who ensure the commercial, technological, design, and financial areas. And now, I'm available for your questions.
So what stage are you at? Have you launched this, or is it still a pure concept stage situation?
Yes, we have the samples at the manufacturer in northern Portugal, in the textile cluster in northern Portugal. Mm-hmm. There are samples being manufactured right now. I'm going to use them to make some promotion with influencers, with sport people, etc.
Okay. So, I think the strategy that you need to focus on right now is how do you get this brand launched? And there's one big question that is emerging for e-commerce companies, which is, should you do your own branded site or should you go on Amazon and start selling on Amazon? And for a lot of scenarios, selling on Amazon may be a very good starting point for you to get things off the ground and get the brand in front of people. The question then is, how do you get discovered on Amazon?
What I'm thinking for, the beginning, in the beginning, we will need a strong investment in marketing. So we can leverage the knowledge of our site, of our brand, and selling through our app and our website. That means it will be necessary a huge investment in marketing. Yes, it's true.
So you will not be able to raise money externally given where you are right now, which is why I'm raising this question. You're going to have to, you will not be able to afford to make a very big investment in marketing.
I don't expect to raise money today because we really are in the beginning, and there are a lot of things we have to prove.
Right. So I think the thing that you should focus on is, what is the strategy to acquire the first, I don't know, whatever number of customers is reasonable, 100,000 customers or something, and where? What is the audience that you're going after? Are you going after a Portuguese audience? Are you going after some other geography? What is the positioning?
Well, it's transversal. I think everybody in the world can buy our products. Our prices will be competitive.
That is not the point. That is not the point. If you want to build a business, you're going to have to make strategic business choices, and you cannot boil the ocean all at once. What is missing from your presentation right now, and I think it's also missing from your thinking, is that staging of how to put one foot before the other. And that's something you need to pay attention to and create a very specific, very, kind of scientific strategy almost, so that you can go to market and have success rather than what we call spray and pray. What you're saying is you want to spray and pray. Spray and pray doesn't work.
Yes, I understand what you are saying, and I agree with you. In the very beginning, yes, I have to decide where and how I will begin, which are my audiences. Yes, I understand it and I agree. But it's the very beginning, okay?
Yes.
Somewhere in time,
everything begins at the beginning, and at the beginning, nothing is clear. You achieve clarity by gradually working on each piece of your business. Like Michelangelo had these big slabs of marble, and he created David out of that. So you're going to have to create your David out of a slab of marble.
That's right, man. I agree. I understand that.
Okay, Rui, I'm going to go to the next presenter, and then we can come back to Q&A a little bit later in the session, okay?
Okay, thank you. My goal is filled because I have right now a feedback from you, and it's very important to me.
Great.
See you.
Okay. Luis Campos Yafar, you're up next. Luis, are you on the call? What's happening? Okay, while we wait for Luis to dial in, here you are. I see you on the video. Are you dialed into the phone call? Luis? No sound for you because you're not dialing in. Maureen, can you guide Luis while I go to the next segment, and I will come back to Luis once he's sorted out. So, folks, the help that we need from you, if you like what we do in 1 million by 1 million, and I know some of you have come here many, many times, is help with spreading the word about the program. And if you know people who are looking for help, who are serious entrepreneurs looking for help in how to build their businesses, please let them know about 1 million by 1 million. Now, go over what resources we have brought together for you. Everything is at 1Mby1M.com. You will find a free blog, which is extensive and comprehensive, and if you just follow the blog, you'll learn a lot from that. We also have the Entrepreneur Journeys book series, which is all available on Amazon, 12 volumes. Each of them double-click on different topics. And positioning is one that we were just talking about with Rui. Positioning is a very important topic that all entrepreneurs will need to grasp. And it's something that I find in all these years, we're coming up to 10 years. Next year it's going to be 10 years that we've been doing 1 million by 1 million. It's something that is very poorly understood. And if you understand it better, you're going to have a much better time, a much easier time building a business. So that's just an example. We have other books like Bootstrapping with a Paycheck, Bootstrapping Using Services. We have a book for female entrepreneurs. We talked about that earlier, female entrepreneurs. So we have a book called Feminine Feminism, etc. So our free roundtable, the one that you are in right now, happens every week, more or less. Over 100,000 people have attended these, and you're very welcome to keep participating in these ones. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium, and you get extensive methodology guidance, a full online curriculum, you get help with business development, with strategy consulting, similar method like what you're experiencing now in this roundtable format on WebEx, and those are private roundtables for our premium members only. Hold on, Luis, let me finish this segment and I'll come back to you. Just make sure that your computer is muted, otherwise you're going to disrupt the call. And that we help you with financing with one caveat that not every company is financeable. So we have to either you have to be at a point where you are fundable, or we have to get you to a point you're fundable, and you have to have a business that is fundable. And then we can introduce you to lots of investors. We work with hundreds of investors, and it's a very powerful network, but we do need you to be ready for that. Just by joining the program doesn't guarantee that you get introduced to investors. Okay, so that's a bit of background. Now, one recommendation I have for all of you who are building businesses to go check out the self-assessment on our website. It's free. It's a set of questions. It's a strategic planning questionnaire. I did 10 years of strategic consulting, and these are the questions I would usually ask my clients, and then I thought that bringing that on to you, the entrepreneurs, would be helpful, because these are the questions investors would ask you. These are the questions you should be asking yourselves as you build your business. If you get stuck on methodology, go do some curriculum. Our curriculum-only option is basic, which is $99 a month. Go do some curriculum, and that would be fine also. Anyway, so if you dig around on the website, you'll find lots of information about premium, basic, there are FAQs, video FAQs, full description of the curriculum, which is a case studies and video lectures-based curriculum. And we have over 1,000 case studies, including 100+ unicorns, 400+ venture-funded companies, another 400+ bootstrap companies. So there's a tremendous amount of learning material, many hundred hours of learning material that you can access to expedite your journey. Our methodology is bootstrap, lean, capital-efficient startups, and the philosophy is bootstrap first, raise money later. And that's because that's the way the industry operates. Investors want bootstrap startups that have validated outside of their timeline. That VCs are trying to go from 0 to $100 million in 5 to 7 years. So before the VC clock starts ticking, you need to do the validation work so that you can hit the ground running and operate within the VC's clock if you are looking for venture capital. That's just the reality of the business. Okay, so we have 2 more roundtables in May, the 16th and the 23rd, and then in June, 3 more, 13th, 20th, and 27th. I am traveling for a bit in end of May till mid-June. And we have 2 more in-person rendezvous in Silicon Valley. If you're local or if you're visiting, you're welcome to come by to Cafe Boroni and talk to me, meet with other people. And that's also a very effective way to start engaging with the program. That's pretty much it. Is Luis's line working now? Luis, can you say something?
Yes, hello. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, just a second. Let me go back to your slides, and you can go ahead and present.
Thank you.
All right, go for it. From Caracas, Venezuela.
Okay, so hello. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm really grateful to be here around such an amazing people that are doing everything they can to impact and change the world we're living. My name is Francisco Campos. I am from Caracas, Venezuela. Currently, I am a student and CEO and senior blockchain developer for Atom Technology, that is a company here in Venezuela. And currently, we are developing a project called the Ecological Cryptocurrency Bank. So what's the value proposition we are talking about here? We're going to create, or currently we're building and financing the first ecological cryptocurrency bank that is a platform built in decentralized and distributed and also post-quantum technologies that is going to use worldwide, and we can implement it as well around the world. We are offering a secure way to pay, exchange goods and services between customers and merchants with a secure store of value, capital, and liquidity availability with anti-inflation digital currency system in a peer-to-peer or C2C that applies to customer and business-to-business way. Okay, thank you. What's the segmentation analysis and our target customers? For our industry, our critical success factors focus on the team, on the feedback we're getting about setting our long-term goals, also as mid-long-term. We do software tracking about our services. We know who are our competitors, and we have plans to grow within the current client base, and we are planning also in growing through partners and new clients. Our competition, or our main competition around the world, is BitPay, that it is a point-of-sale system or application for Bitcoin payments, and local Bitcoin, that it is a peer-to-peer exchange for Bitcoin and local currencies. Our target market geography focuses on local and international cities and capitals. We are starting from Caracas, Venezuela. The demographic aspects are millennials, and the behavior of them are consumers and sort of value. The psychography about our business model are digital payment users. Next slide, please. Thank you. Which is our customer acquisition strategy right now? We are going to work in marketing plans, including social media marketing, SEO marketing, video marketing, and high-well billboard ads. What's the cost structure of the company? It is based on fixed costs that are salaries and utilities, and the variable costs are materials and tax, that is a rate of 16%. Only our revenue streams are based on transactions and recurring revenue. Thank you. Now, what's the customer validation that we have? Right now, currently, we have positioned this eco-cryptocurrency bank in a strategic tower in El Rosal, Caracas. Those are the headquarters, and that zone, specifically in Caracas, is where the biggest banks and corporations are running. This project was founded in January of 2019. The company has 5 years working. This is one of the projects. And our mission for this project is to manage the most efficient and stable cryptocurrency bank platform for everyday consumers and merchants. Currently, we have 10 customers, and our main leadership is instrumental lead. Next slide, please. This is a chart from last April of 2019 showing the Bitcoin global trade volume around the world, and we can see Venezuela positioning in the rank number 2 after Russia with a trade volume of 5,000 Bitcoin, just in local Bitcoin. Next slide, please. Where are we going with all of this? Right now, we have closed the seed private funding that has been done by the main directors of the company and our first clients. And for the next 12 months, we're looking to complete in the next days an early stage investment, or a stage A investment of a soft cap of 500,000 and a hard cap of 1 million American dollars. And we're going to use it to build the second mining node. We are finished the development, and we're going to officially launch the point of sale system for users and merchants. And by next year, by 2020, we plan to go live with our ICO, or initial coin offering. And we're also launching our official stablecoin backed by euros, using an offshore jurisdiction. And by the year 2021, we plan to go public in the stocks with our initial public offering.
Luis, you said that you have 10 customers.
Yes.
By the way, you're going to need to cut your computer audio, because otherwise we can't have a conversation. You should talk to the phone and cut your computer audio. Mute the computer audio. Okay?
Okay.
Are you there? All right, here we go. So you have 10 customers. Can you elaborate on what these 10 customers do with you? What are you doing for them?
Yeah, sure. So one of the basis or strong points of this eco cryptocurrency bank is that we have mining nodes that are like data centers for cryptocurrency mining. So we
Okay.
work as well as a hosting service for clients that want to acquire mining equipment for digital currency mining. So we offer all the technology that is required, all the spaces, all the maintenance, and we are connecting all of that into a single entity that is going to be the Eco Cryptocurrency Bank.
So, what do you view as a cryptocurrency bank versus as a hosting service for miners who want to mine cryptocurrency?
Because we as a cryptocurrency bank, we offer a complete portfolio about what are cryptocurrencies and how they work, and we are creating a new ecosystem, introducing different blockchains, different technologies like decentralized and post-quantum computing, and we are merging all of that into a single entity.
So what do these customers generate for you in terms of revenue? These 10 customers, how much are you making of them?
Currently, we are making around $3,000 from customers currently.
$3,000 total, $3,000 a month, $3,000 a day. What is the denomination?
Yeah, I can give you the exact numbers right now from our revenue streams from last month, but it's around those numbers.
3,000 what? Just 3,000 total or 3,000 a month?
Excuse me?
Is it $3,000 a month or just $3,000 period?
No, it's $3,000 a month. It's a recurring revenue.
It's a recurring revenue. Okay, 10 customers are generating $3,000. So it's about $300 per customer to use your mining node.
Yes, that's
or
correct.
mining equipment, as you call it. Yeah?
Yes, that's correct. That's just in the mining part.
And how many competitors do you have in the mining equipment space?
Well, in the cryptocurrency mining space, are you talking globally or just locally here in Venezuela?
In Venezuela.
Well, officially there are none. Currently, there are some mid-sized farms around Caracas and other states of Venezuela, but they are really private. So they manage an amount of 500 machines or more or less.
And how big is the market for, how many customers globally are there who want to mine cryptocurrency and are willing to mine from Venezuela?
Yeah, so we are not openly offering our mining services to the population because this is, as I told you, a private seed funding that was funded for the creation of these small nodes, mining nodes. So the services that we are offering is the point of sale system that is going to work with the Bitcoin network using an exchange operator. And as well, that's the way where we're getting transactions-based revenue, and also as well from the ICO and token.
So Luis, for me, this presentation doesn't work at all. This is not an investor pitch. I mean, if I were an investor, this investor pitch doesn't work for me. I don't get anything that I need to decide whether I want to invest here or not. It's lacking a lot of the fundamentals of what an investor needs, which is why I was trying to understand if there is something that is truly validated. Just setting up an office in a building with other banks is not validation of a concept. Validation of a concept is, are customers willing to pay for a service? You have that validation in the Bitcoin mining equipment or cryptocurrency mining equipment. You have 10 customers who are recurring revenue customers generating $3,000 a month. If you came and told me that we know how to sell to mining equipment, people who are looking for mining equipment, we have already 10 customers. We know how to go from 10 to 1,000 customers. That's something that is credible, as believable. I don't know if there are 1,000 customers that you can get to, but at least there is some validation. The rest of your business proposal doesn't really cut it for me, because you haven't really been very granular. You're like, you're going to create a cryptocurrency bank. Well, a bank has many different kinds of services, right? If you look at a Morgan Stanley, for instance, Morgan Stanley has wealth management for high net worth individuals. Morgan Stanley has investment banking. Morgan Stanley deals with IPOs and so on. They deal with private placements. They have mutual funds, ETFs. All these are different types of services from a bank. Wells Fargo has consumer retail banking, checking accounts, savings accounts. All these are different types of banking services. So I don't understand what does it mean to have a bank, a cryptocurrency bank? What are you offering? And what is the validation for what are there takers for what you're trying to offer? So this presentation needs a lot of work.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Ms. Ramana. But I think you were focusing very much in our current, base customers that we have right now, and you didn't look at this project from the platform point of view, because this is an ecosystem, this is a platform, and just mining nodes and mining equipment is just a part of that platform.
Right. That's why I said there's only one piece of your business that is validated. All the rest is kind of, not very well articulated. So I think I will point you to the same thing, which is the self-assessment. Go figure out answers to these questions and figure out how you answer those questions. If you get stuck, go do the curriculum, the 1M basic curriculum, and try to learn methodology on how to answer these questions, because without answering these questions, you will not be able to present something that would be palatable for investors. Okay? So that would be my next step, is to have you do some, learning, basically. I think you have a tremendous amount of knowledge gap on how to build a business right now, and that's where I would focus you on plugging. And you're a student, so now is a great time to invest in learning. I would say that is your next step. Okay, folks, we can do more Q&A. Anybody in the room is welcome to either dial in or ask questions in public chat, and I will be happy to take questions. While you're doing that, let me also introduce you to Irina Patterson, who is your contact on the 1M1M team, irina@1M1M.com. If you have questions about the program, please feel free to contact Irina, and she will respond to you very quickly. Anybody? Questions? Questions, comments, feedback, introductions. It's a great time to network as well. So if you want to tell us where you're joining from, what are you working on, what kinds of issues are you dealing with, it's a very nice point in the program to dialogue and have quick conversations. And if you have questions, of course, this is the time to ask. Yes, no, nobody?
Hello? Hello?
Sonia Singhal is based in San Jose. Yes, just a second. Can you hold on for 1 second? Let me take Sonia Singhal's question. Sonia, if you have a question, if you want to introduce yourself, go ahead and type in public chat. And whose voice was it on the call? Is that Rui?
Yes, it's me, Ramana. One question.
Go ahead.
When I have updates from my presentation, okay, when I have numbers of sellings, etc., can I join again your roundtable?
You cannot join the free roundtables, but if you join the program, if you join the premium program, you can come back and talk to me as much as you want. Every week you can come and present, and you can come discuss whatever progress you're making, whatever feedback you're getting from the market. All of that is continuously available to you through the premium program.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you again for your initiative.
You're very welcome.
Bye,
Sonia?
It was a pleasure.
Sonia wants to understand how the ecosystem works. You have to be more specific with your question if you want me to address that. Meanwhile, anybody else with questions, please feel free to either dial in or type in public chat. Let me put the phone number back on. You don't have any specific question at this time. Well, I think just immersing yourself in the program and the content of the program and these roundtable sessions, for a few months, you'll learn a lot. And if you really want to accelerate your knowledge of how to build a business, go do 1M Basic. That's a curriculum, only $99 a month. If you spend, let's say 50 hours in 1 month, I can guarantee you are going to learn so much just by doing that. It's a tremendous. You go out and spend $99 on a dinner. Instead, if you spend that on this learning and commit several hours of study time, that is one of the best ways that you can advance your learning. Anybody else? Questions? Comments? Anybody? All right, looks like everybody has got what they wanted from this program today. I will see you next time. Next week we have both a rendezvous, in-person rendezvous, and a public roundtable that you can come to, both of which are free. So we'll see you in one of those. Talk to you soon. Bye.